And what do you make of this, Watson?
It seems to be a rather random assortment of notes. I confess that I cannot deduce any further concept of what its purpose may be, and what of this rather curious figure in the corner, some type of fruit, I suspect. How did you come into possession of this stuff?
This document arrived this morning by post from a most interesting individual. Apparently, this individual found the document amid a pile of other papers at the scene of a church meeting, and could not identify the author, and so sent it to me.
I see. And how do you presume to find the writer?
My dear Watson, I already have. She is en route as we speak. I scarcely have time to explain how I arrived at my conclusion, but I share this in the time that I do have. That figure is central to this person's temperament, and if I may say, her predicament.
You're supposed to have your hat on for a while.
I got my hat on. Sure. Sorry.
Watson,
He has way too much hair.
may I introduce the author of the document, Lady Edgerton.
A pleasure.
It's mine. But I'll hold on to my plan. On the contrary, Mr. Watson, it is my pleasure to arrive at this address, though I fret that I visit to discuss a most concerning matter. Thank you, Mr. Holmes, for inviting me to your home. Indeed, your kindness seems to be one of a kind, with my reason for drawing the pineapple on the paper in your possession, an expression of hospitality to visitors.
Certainly, Lady Edgerton. The symbolism of the pineapple was not lost upon me, although that particular object has other significance as well. You will no doubt recall the adventure of the Hudson fur theft, which turned when I found a clue by closely observing the stone pineapple which hangs above the easterly entrance of that Sicilian enclave of Federal Hill. An interesting story, certainly, although my colleague Watson did me a disservice by focusing too intently upon the altercation I experienced with two mafia thugs.
Had it not been for that altercation, however, you would never have found the true mastermind behind the plot. First time reading the script.
Yes, Watson. Of course I recall resolving that bold scenario. Hardly worth repeating to our esteemed and creative client, however. Lady Edgerton, I fear that our hospitality does not equal the quality of your work, and I do apologize.
I certainly take no offense, Mr. Holmes. I hardly consider it an inconvenience.
I thank you for your indulgence, my lady. Would you now treat Mr. Watson to a brief repetition of the case you have presented to me?
Of course, Mr. Holmes. You see, Mr. Watson, my church is about to lose its priest.
Lose its priest? Have you some suspicion that a plot is afoot to kidnap your minister? Or worse?
Oh, hush, Watson. How often have I pled with you to set aside your frightful aversion to hearing our clients tell their stories before spinning your fanciful yarns? Please, Watson, take a drink and provide your lips with a more constructive engagement than agitating our guest with these baseless presumptions. I am sorry, Lady Edgerton. You must excuse Mr. Watson's flights of authorial fancy. Despite my best efforts, he persists in giving his audience reason to see the outlandish as somehow being typical in the modern age. As I have told him time and again, the achievement of solving cases is hardly lessened because one finds that the elementary explanation is in fact the correct one.
How often have I heard these words, and yet I refuse to abandon my practice. Holmes, having no temperament for anything but the study of facts, the collection of evidence, and the cold calculating analysis thereof, was wholly immature to the thrill of discovery of an entirely unexpected result to which my audience and I were well acquainted.
And now, my lady, please continue your explanation.
Certainly, Mr. Holmes, the rector of my church is soon to depart to warmer climes, and our congregation is to be left without new leadership. In the meantime, we have held assembly to gather parishioners' comments, but seem no closer to a decision.
A decision on whom to select as the new rector.
Quite so. This congregation, Watson, has the authority as granted by the Anglican Communion to select its next rector. Pray go on, my lady.
There are so many varying opinions among us, Mr. Holmes, that it is far from certain that we may ever reach a consensus, and yet we must decide within a reasonable time. Indeed, we do not wish to delay placing a new rector beyond St. Francis Xavier's Day, if it can at all be helped.
Then you have done well to visit us today, Lady Egerton. As December 3rd is some months away, you are providing us with far more time. You are providing us with far more time than may otherwise be necessary for this case. And now, Watson, if you will show our fair guest to her carriage, I must apply some efforts to expressing Vivaldi on my violin.
Barely a fortnight had passed when Holmes, speaking nary a word of the case of St. David's Dilemma, when one fine afternoon he returned to Baker Street, escorting Lady Egerton, whose countenance appeared visibly relieved, contrary to her prior state.
Watson, you will be thrilled to know that I have arrived at a conclusion to that matter which so agitated the good lady. Pray, fetch the brandy and 3 snifters, if you please.
Knowing his presence for unspooling the thread of his thoughts, I presented the good lady and the good detective with their glasses of brandy, and raised a toast to God and country, and waited for Holmes to embark on his explanation as Lady Egerton took her leisure in their chase.
You see, Watson, yet again I have found that the most logical conclusion is the one needing the least effort to unravel. Of course, after giving due consideration to all other possibilities.
I am relieved to hear that.
As am I indeed. I eagerly await the results of your deliberations.
It is not to be wondered at, Watson, that in my aspiration to solve this case alone, I exercised a rather startling lack of perspective on the matter. In fact, at one point I was nearly frantic with confusion and worried that my efforts would result in failure.
I find that quite difficult to believe, Mr. Holmes. Indeed, it was your reputation for discovering otherwise hidden truths that led me to welcome your aid in this case.
Again, my lady, I thank you for your kind compliments. And now, with your consent, I will explain my conclusion in this case. As my colleague Watson will attest, one common theme among the majority of our cases is the solitary nature of those whom the cases affected the most profoundly. The widow who has lost valuable jewelry, The owner of a Napoleon bust who suddenly finds it pilfered and smashed in the street. The husband seeking his lost spouse. That, my friends, is the point on which this entire dilemma turned and allowed me to find its resolution. You see, Lady Egerton, there is power and strength in the collective effort that your parish is making to find its new rector. While at times it may seem unwieldy, that strength is nevertheless critical to your ultimate success. In other words, dear lady, you and the congregation at St. David's possess far more ability than I, yes, even I, possess alone. And so I encourage you to continue the work you have started in eliciting dialogue from the congregation. And as I have in the past, follow the evidence where it leads. I have no doubt that St. David's Parish will arrive at a suitable decision in due time through the efforts of everyone involved.
Once again, Mr. Holmes, you make your work seem so simple, and I am indebted to you for providing such clarity. We're all seem so confused.
It is I who should thank you, since you remind me of the value of collective effort toward a common goal. Indeed, I find myself envious of the potential to which you and the parish may aspire, knowing that as one person, I will never likely attain the same. And now, Watson, I believe we have an engagement to attend. Would you be so kind as to escort the lady back to the hall?